Chapter 3. Rondo was out of breath by the time he made it to the double doors of Lord Dietrich's study. He took a few deep breaths, trying to get his wind back. Just 3 minutes prior, he was startled by a guard knocking on his door, informing him Dietrich wanted to see him immediately. Not a letter, but a direct message. It must be urgent. He sprinted all the way there as fast as he could, but it obviously took its toll. He sucked in one more mouthful of air and pushed one of the doors open. Dietrich was sitting at his desk, which was absolutely cluttered with books, scrolls, and other important-looking items. His hands were steepled in front of him, and Rondo could barely make out an irritated grimace bordered by his goatee. Standing next to the desk was a nervous guard, who was trembling so much he could barely hold his magic spear upright. He looks like he just got chewed out, or is about to. Took you long enough, said a familiar voice. Rondo glanced behind him and saw his friend Cydren standing by the wall to the right of the door. He had his arms crossed and was tapping his foot. Oh, right, I forgot. Cydren's so friendly with Dietrich he practically lives in this room. Sorry for making everyone wait. Rondo saw their other friend Vargas standing on the opposite side of the entryway, rubbing his hands and looking worried. So what's going on?
We're not sure, Vargas answered. We're all waiting on you. Big trouble, though, if I had to guess.
Tremendous trouble, said Dietrich. He turned to the guard.
Well?
Tell them exactly what you told me. Tell them about your squad's incompetence. The guard gulped. Yes, well, at roughly 12:03 a.m. last night, Loretho and Marcine Ariada attempted to flee this fortress with magical artifacts in their possession. Cydren gasped. They both did? I didn't realize they'd ran away, thought Rondo. I just assumed they were out on a mission.
What things did they take?
Vargas asked. A rare gem, as well as Lord Dietrich's magic tome, replied the guard, who seemed to be growing more nervous by the second. In their attempt to escape, it appears Loretho was knocked off his zephyr, causing him to... He scratched his neck. Well, to fall to his death.
What?
Cried Vargas. He's dead? Rondo could hardly believe what he was hearing. He saw a pained scowl on Cydren's face. I'm afraid there was nothing we could have done to prevent it, the guard continued, giving a solemn nod. When Marcine saw it happen, I can't even imagine. Miss Marcine fled with the book to a forested area, south of here. We were able to catch up to her, but she fought us off and tried to get away. We had no choice but to shoot her down. What? Rondo said. She died too? Miss Marcine fell into a nearby river. We can neither confirm nor deny her status. We don't even know her whereabouts. And why is that? Dietrich asked, standing up. Tell them what happened with the search effort. My lord, the guard said, in almost a pleading manner. The river feeds into a heavily populated, unversed town. To venture into their borders would have run the risk of exposing us to... Dietrich was face to face with the guard now. I gave you distinct orders to bring back the book and the girl, and you failed me on both counts. The poor sentry cowered, almost shrunk under the glare of Dietrich. Forgive me, Master Dietrich, he said, falling to his knees. I take full responsibility. Against his better judgment, Rondo intervened. My lord, do you think there's a chance Marcine survived the fall? Now all eyes were on him, and for a moment he was afraid he'd be the new target of his master's wrath. It's not out of the realm of possibility, Dietrich responded, much calmer than Rondo was expecting, though that wasn't saying much. In fact, as it stands, we must treat it as an absolute certainty, which is where you three come in. I want you to head out to where Marcine was last spotted and comb the surrounding area. That includes the unversed town. He cast a judgmental glance at the guard. I'm assigning Cydren leader of this group. Bring back the book at any cost. And if you run into Marcine, well, you are authorized to use whatever force you deem necessary. Rondo's guts sank at that last sentence. He doesn't actually expect us to kill her, does he? One other thing, sir, said the guard. Miss Marcine mentioned something about... Not another word from you, Dietrich hissed. He sat at his desk. I'll see to it that you three are provided with any tools you feel you may need. I hope you will provide me with more satisfactory results. Cydren stepped forward and bowed. You can count on us, master. Come on, you two. As they exited the room, Rondo hesitated, glancing apprehensively at Dietrich and the guard. Poor guy. Guess there's nothing we can do for him now. He slowly closed the door and joined his friends in walking down the hall. You don't think he's actually going to hurt that guard, do you?
I hope not,
replied Vargas, glancing back at the study doors. If that were me... Be glad it isn't, Cydren interrupted. Better him than us, in my opinion. How can you say that? Rondo scolded. Hey, it's his own fault. You don't do your job right, you get punished. Simple as that. Yeah, but still... I've been yelled at before, but the way Dietrich was looking at that guard, it was like he was planning something far worse. All we should be concerned with right now is doing our job and staying on Dietrich's good side, said Cydren as they started down the staircase. About that, Rondo said, why'd he pick us? Marcine's our friend, right? So, are we really the best witches for the job?
Maybe it's because we're her friends, Vargas suggested. Think about it. If it were someone else, she might flip out and start attacking them. But she'd be more likely to cooperate if it's someone she trusts.
If that were true, why'd Dietrich tell us by any means necessary? We're not actually going to hurt her, are we? Cydren shrugged. We don't even know if she's alive. Don't say that! Rondo ran in front of Cydren, stopping him in his tracks. I know she's alive. She has to be. She wouldn't go down that easily. Cydren didn't reply. He glanced at Vargas, who just threw his hands up. Cydren put his hands behind his head and sighed. Get your Zephyrs and be at the launch pad in no more than 15 minutes. He continued down the hall, leaving them behind. Pack light. You believe she's still alive, right? Rondo said to Vargas. But his hefty friend nervously watched Cydren walk away before hurrying after him. Rondo shook his head. I'm positive she's alive. He hurried to his room, grabbing his Zephyr off his dresser. As he was about to leave, he caught a reflection in the mirror. He was surprised to see how disheveled and run down he looked. His skin looked somewhat pale and had the coldness to match. Patches of his hair stuck straight out. Did I look like this when I met with Dietrich? His stomach felt like it was being twisted up, like a wet rag being wrung out. Am I sick? If I was, I would have known already, right? He turned his head from side to side, inspecting his reflection extensively. It's not sickness. It's anxiety. I'm actually hunting down one of my friends, and for what? Some book? Dietrich has plenty of other spell books. What would he want with that old thing? Then he realized Cydren and Vargas were probably already at the launch pad waiting for him. He bolted out of his room and hurried down the halls. When he reached the double doors, the guards standing by immediately opened them, and he ran right through to the landing zone. It was a pretty big area, about as big as a dining hall, with room for just about the entire guild. Black lines were drawn on the glossy yellow floor to designate runways. There were 6 in all, with a large circular door at the end of each one. Rondo found Vargas and Cydren on the runway to the far right, talking to one of the attendants. At Cydren's feet was a black rectangular carrying case, with straps attached to the top. Vargas had a large trunk strapped to his back. Knowing him, I'd bet he's filled that with food, thought Rondo, cracking a smile. So much for packing lightly. He whistled as he got closer, and they turned to look at him. Finally, said Cydren. For a minute, we were almost thinking of leaving without you. Glad to see you've made it, Mr. Mizell, said the guard, nodding to Rondo. I'll let him know you're just about ready to take off. He ran down towards the door at the end of the track. Sorry I took so long. Rondo pointed to Cydren's case. What's in there? Scouter eyes, Cydren said. One for each of us. They're supposed to help us in our search. Vargas shuddered.
I hate those things. They give me the creeps.
Yeah, me too. Rondo stared nervously, almost expecting the scouters to pop out on their own. You want to find your girlfriend? Replied Cydren. This is what it's going to take, so bear with it. Rondo's face got warmer. Wait a minute, she's not my... He was interrupted by the door at the end of the runway opening. That's our cue, said Cydren. Then, smirking at Rondo, he added, Hey, don't sweat it. All the more reason for us to find her, right? Vargas turned away in an attempt to hide his smile. Rondo wanted to kick his comrade, but decided now wasn't the time. The sooner we get going, the sooner we'll find Marcine. He held out his Zephyr and gave it a good flick so that it extended out, footholds and all. Any idea on where we're heading? Cydren pulled a piece of paper out of his robe pocket and waved it around for the other two to see. Got a map with the coordinates right here. At that moment, the guard from before called to them from across the room. Attention! Party of Cydren Noxus, Rondo Mizell, and Vargas Eisenwald. Please take your places on runway F. The corresponding gate creaked open, and Rondo saw it was getting close to sunset. They formed a triangle, Cydren out in front, and Rondo behind him with Vargas on his left. Cydren picked up the scouter case and placed each of his arms to the straps, wearing it on his back like he was going camping. The case measured just slightly under his shoulder span, while vertically it went from his neck all the way down to his waistline. Are we ready? He said, glancing back. Ready, answered Rondo.
Yeah,
Vargas added enthusiastically. Cydren counted down with his fingers. Here we go. We depart in 3, 2, 1. Rondo kicked off the ground and into flight. The three of them soared right through the circular opening and out into the open air. Rondo glanced down at the ground several hundred feet below them. He thought about Larithos' fatal fall and how painful and scary it must have been. I'd hate to fall like that. No, I can't be thinking about that right now. He turned his attention to the horizon, to the task ahead.